Oosh.
Listen to Abe Thompson for an hour. I'd rather fuck a blood relative.
Welcome guys to episode 133 of Thompsin and Other Disappointments, brought to you by Funk27, discontent providers. Check out the website. It's got blogs and podcasts to keep you laughing like a drain in a dark time. As always, a big shout out, nay, loving, impassioned scream of reciprocal love to the Patreon backers who continue to support the show. And who in turn get exclusive invites to the live shows like the one that we're doing in February in Soho. That's me, Super Tansky, Danny fucking Price, Jolyon Rubenstein, and a couple of others yet to be confirmed. But that's happening on Friday the 10th of February in Soho. And ticket information for that will go out to the Patreons first, along with some VIP stuff also. I should probably mention also, you get episodes of the podcast 2 days ahead of everyone else. You get invited to the in-person meetups, like the one we just did in Brick Lane 4 weeks ago. And we have a private members Discord chat now for Patreons too. So if you are enjoying the show, don't be a stranger. Jump on patreon.com/Aid Thompson with an IN on the end. Guys, my guest tonight, super excited to get an hour of his time. I interviewed him a few years ago for a documentary that I was doing about the London open mic comedy circuit. We both sort of came up in that world around the same time, although he leapfrogged a lot of it by exploding onto social media with his character Dapper Laughs. He exploited social media in a way that I hadn't seen before, or to be honest, since, really. He went from 6-second videos on the defunct social network Vine to selling out London venues, a song in the charts, a TV show, and so on. Anyway, tonight he's joining me for a catch-up and also to discuss his move into shining a light on men's mental health through his new initiative, Men and Their Emotions, or MATE. Please welcome to the show, Daniel O'Reilly. Woo!
Woo-hoo! Yeah.
How's it going, man?
Good. It's great to talk, Joe. We're familiar faces. It's a funny thing, isn't it? We look older now, but
do you think? My heart's breaking inside. Yeah.
Yeah, but we knew each other. We knew each other from the open mic night from back in the day.
Yeah. So I guess a little bit of context on that. So I used to gig like 2, 3, 4 nights a week. Dan used to run. I forget the name of your night now. It
was Brand Spanking Comedy.
That's right. And you did one in Clapham at the Jantry.
One in Chelsea. Yeah,
that's right.
Ever the entrepreneur. We had 2 nights. They were competitions some nights and normal ones. And I also done that 100 comedians in one night. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah. So that was at the Clapham Grand, right? And it was
before social media. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was sort of like a TV show, right? Like you were filming it for a pilot or something?
I filmed it I still got that.
Yeah.
I filmed it for a pilot. 100 comedians, 1 joke each, 1 winner. And they had a bit of a joke off at the end. And 1 minute each, 100 comedians, 1 minute each. Yeah. It was it was fucking, I can't believe I'd done that. I was only young.
Yeah,
very, very enthusiastic.
This is the thing, man. Like, I think a lot of people, when they're familiar with your background, they think that you just had a phone, you made a few silly videos, and then you just exploded. But and I'm not here to butter your ass, right? But my perception of you was that you were very entrepreneurial. You were all about running your own nights, filming these pilots, trying to get stuff running, like really trying to run it yourself. It was almost like the Vine stuff was kind of like your side gig that accidentally blew up, is how it felt to me.
Yeah, I think like I was away for so long working on cruise ships, doing like family friendly entertainment and the holiday parks and stuff like that. I spent years cruising around the world that I felt like I'd been left behind a little bit by the time. I mean, I was only young, 23, 24, 25 maybe. But when I got back, I was like, I need to catch up. I need to fucking become part of the scene and da-da-da-da. So I was raring to go, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, feels like a lifetime ago now. It wasn't even that long ago, right? Maybe you could take us back like to that sort of rise to fame. Because some people will be watching this and they'll be like, oh, I fucking know that guy, like off Instagram, right? He makes the funny videos, or like the Snapchat stuff that you did. but they might not be familiar with like how you kind of exploded into popular culture, if you like. So can you take us back, like how that happened?
Well, I was I cut up. Long story short, really, I kind of went the wrong way around. I always wanted to be an actor, so I done performing arts in college, and I done musical theatre. Done a lot of acting, a lot of stage acting, and I wanted to be an actor. But my parents broke up when I was young, and my mum moved away when I was about 15. I actually moved out when I was quite young, and I had to work. So I was working to pay rent from a young age, as well as going to college and stuff like that. And I never really had time to experience the open mic circuit from a young age. I've done a couple of pub gigs, but I found out a way that I could live, have my rent paid for, have everything paid for, and perform on stage, albeit game shows and stuff like that. And it was to go and work in holiday parks or to get, I went over to Cyprus and I worked all of the all-inclusive hotels over there doing game shows, and that got spotted, went on the cruise ships, and then that was me from about 18 till about 23, 24. Then when I come back, I've always been into business and wanted to make money. So I had my own estate agency for a while. And that's really when I discovered, I was doing my comedy nights because I wanted to make money and I wanted to perform. And I'd only just found out really about the comedy circuit and the comedy collective and all of that jazz.
Yeah.
Getting booked was just a stress, and getting on, it was like catch-22. If you weren't known or you didn't have a strong 5 minutes, you couldn't get on and get a strong 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Or you certainly couldn't get paid gigs until, well, it's just near enough impossible until you were well known. So I created my own comedy nights, and in between that, managed my business. And then when social media came along, it just sort of cured everything for me, because I could have my passion and had the need to create and write comedy and get a reaction from it quenched straight away, just on the phone. Instead of all that mad. In fact, I know now, I didn't know then, but I had ADHD. I've got ADHD. I've got severe ADHD, and the ideas and the jokes were flying around my head constantly. And the only time I could get them out was when I was on stage, which was once or twice a week. But suddenly, in the palm of my hands, I could fucking do it every hour, and then that was it. I was gone.
And then when you kind of started exploring the social media stuff, I might come back to the ADHD thing in a minute, actually.
Yeah, no problem.
But when you started exploring the social media stuff, did that then, like, what happened to your comedy night? Was it then like sold out, packed out? Did it just?
No, I think the comedy night was a steady form of revenue for me. I think I was making about £250 a week, which is massive in the comedy world back then.
Yeah.
But I also ran my own business as well. But when the social media stuff started blowing up, I sold my stake in that business to my business partner, and I stopped doing the comedy nights, and I just solely focused on. I could see it was a marketing tool straight away. Before, I think quite early on, everyone was worried about growing on these platforms, on Vine and that. But I was thinking to myself, how can you generate revenue out of these platforms? How can you, I've got 10,000. I remember when I hit 10,000 I got, like, across all social media platforms now, it's about 5 million. But back then, 10,000 to me, I was like, how the fuck can I get a quid out of every single one of these people?
Do
you know what I mean? Impossible, yeah. But that was before my passion really sort of set in for social media comedy, the power of viral comedy and being able to say what you wanted to say and create. That's before my mind really opened up to it, to creating characters and stuff. And I just kept growing and growing and growing. And then I was like, right, let's see. Moved it on the Facebook, hit 1 million on Facebook, and then I said, right, let's see how we can turn this into live work, but on a bigger scale. And it's all about leaps. Let's book something massive and let's leap in and see if it sells. And it did, and it's been the same since, just leaping, and hope it works.
Are you still doing live shows now? Then are you doing like because when I saw you were at, I think it was Angel Academy, doing some stuff there. That was pretty wild. But I don't know, like, are you still doing stand-up at all now? Or?
Yeah, I am. Look, I'll show you. Where's my, I've got my posters here somewhere. I've got my poster from my last one here somewhere. I've got them all over the wall just to fucking massage my ego. But I done the Indigo at the O2 only a matter of months ago, only about 3 months ago. We sold that out. Before last year, I done the Troxy So what I'm doing, I mean, I feel like it's cheating in a way. It's cheating in a way, but instead of when I fell out with the comedians and the comedy scene, when
Yeah.
25 comedians signed that open letter to get me cancelled, I just really didn't feel like I fit in anymore on the comedy circuit.
Yeah.
I was never booked for panel shows. I just felt like the comedians, comedians really turned against me real hard when I got
Do
my
you
TV
think
show.
is that a sort of common theme then? So like when you were first starting on the open mic circuit, you said you felt a little bit like it was chicken and egg, like it was difficult to get a paid slot. You couldn't necessarily get booked until you had a tried and tested 5, 10 or 15 and so on. And so then you did your own thing. And now in a similar way, you're saying you sort of felt ostracized, but now it's kind of propelled you into having to do your own shit also.
Where I was going with that is I don't do small gigs at the moment, or I haven't done for many years. I'll just wait for once or twice a year and do like a 2,000 seater and like build up the fear of missing out online. I'm going to do this. It's one night only. Too hot for TV. Fucking, it's going to be mental. You're going to miss it. Yeah. Build it up, drop it, sell it out. But it's cheating in a way for me, performing just to my fans. Do you know what I mean? And I even hate saying fans, but I guess now with a loyal social media following, they are.
Yeah.
Because it's very similar. It's the same people that buy my music, that download my films, or buy my films, that come to the shows, that watch the videos, that comment, that share. They're coming, and to me, it's. I know what they like, so I miss doing the comedy. I miss the fear of the
risk
night.
That you might.
The risk.
Yeah. So do you not? That's fucking ballsy. Like, speaking as a comedian, the idea that you would just go out and do you not do warm up gigs or like test material?
Never.
Really?
No.
You're fucking nuts.
Listen, I don't know if it's gonna work until I'm saying it, and it doesn't always work. And I think. But the beauty of it is I'm honest with it. I say to them, none of this, I don't know what's going to happen, none of this. But my best skill, I believe one of my fundamental talents is audience interaction work and improv. It's got me in a lot of trouble before, but yeah, I think next year is going to be different because I've recently just been booked actually for a well-known comedy night for the first time ever. And actually, I won't mention what it is, but I've also been booked for a panel show as well. Right. And I don't know why all of a sudden these things are happening, or I'm getting offered them, because for many, many years I haven't. So I think next year I'm going to try and maybe come out of my comfort zone and do some old school comedy nights. Yeah.
Yeah. It could be that you are like a sort of maybe this is a clumsy parallel to draw, right? But if you think back to Craig David. Right, amazing singer, super talented, good writer, chicks fancied him, great. And then there was that whole sort of Bo Selector period, and it fucking decimated his career. He was pushed to the side. And then there was this sort of second coming, if you like, where people were like, fucking hell, I forgot Craig David's awesome. And he was back doing DJ sets, live shows, headlining, new album out. And I think people really like a sort of, a story of, I guess redemption's the wrong word.
I think I'm less of a knobhead. I'm less of a twat now than I was. Before, back in the day, I was purposely doing really controversial stuff because it was growing. It was growing me, and I'm a different person now. From when I was younger, I was a right knobhead. I took a lot of risks, and I didn't really care about the consequences. But also, I think that cancel culture, the backlash on it now is more popular than maybe there's, you've got people that are still whinging and moaning about comedy, but people think that they're the problem now a little bit more than
I was going to ask you how you think comedy's changed, and I feel like such an old bastard saying that, because it's not even that long ago since I was doing it, but it does feel like, whether we're talking the advent of moving away from stand-up comedy into online comedy, like cheating, is what you referred to it as, or if we're talking about moving outside of the era where material was a bit risky into the era where people are kind of getting, I think cancelled. I would see it more as sort of like the consequence.
I think I don't know. I've got to be honest when I talk about this stuff, because my view on it has changed over the years drastically. I used to be a firm believer that comedy was ruined. That hold on a second, my dog is trying to get in. Dora, can you get Doris away? She's trying to get through the door. Go on, get out. Get out. Yeah, sorry, just to start that bit again. Yeah, because
Sure.
I'm a firm believer, like, my view on it has changed drastically over the years. I used to think that comedy was ruined. I used to think that, you can't get away with anything, and things are, everything that you say is going to piss someone off. So, blah, blah, blah. But the truth of the matter is, like Ricky Gervais says, like, it's, he doesn't censor himself at all. And he's probably one of the largest comedians on the planet. Do you know what I mean? Ricky, Jimmy Carr doesn't censor himself. All of these sort of massive comedians, it's a load of bullshit. The only time that, and I learned this the hard way, the only time that it's a problem is if your revenue streams and your business and everything is associated with big brands, big platforms that value their reputation over your creative ability, then you're fucked. So, once you lose everything and you're left with social media, as long as you're not promoting hate speech and you're staying within the guidelines, just sanity, basically, you should be able to joke about whatever you want anyway. So it's down to the comedian. I think the tide's turning, and I'm very much in the view that, look, what I'm like. I can push the boundaries. I can cross the line sometimes. That's how I learn. There's stuff that I used to joke about that I wouldn't now. I'm a father of 2 daughters, so
Sure.
I learned, I learned a lot about why some things upset people, but I think it's up to the comedian and it's up to the audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. And it's an important point to focus on is how much people can change over the space of 10 or 15 years. I mean, I look back at some of the stuff that I did and said when I was like a 23-year-old guy, 25-year-old guy, and I'm just like, oh God.
My God, don't. Yeah, I mean, I dread to think what's going to happen when my daughters are old enough to Google me or YouTube me and they have a look. I mean, knowing my luck, they'll both be a couple of headstrong, hard feminists like my missus is. But the truth of it is, and I get this a lot now. I still get this in the comment section or sometimes, in DMs and stuff like that. Oh, especially because I know now when a piece of my content online is going viral, the abuse starts. Right. The negativity.
You reach that threshold, and then you're like, here it comes.
Yeah, because when it stays within my followers on Instagram, my followers on TikTok, when it stays within there, it's all love, it's all funny, it's all everything. When the people start coming in and go, you twat, oh, this guy's still around, I thought he was dead, what's he fucking doing? I'm like, oh, right, wicked, it's going viral now. Do you know what I mean? It's outside of my thing. And I still get, oh, it's the rape joke comedian. Oh, you're still doing rape jokes, are you? You're still pro-rape, are you? And I used to get really upset about it. I used to be like, no, you don't get it. It was taken out of context. It's not right. Of course, I'm not pro-rape. Like, what's wrong? And I used to get really upset and angry about it. Now I just think to myself, well, yeah, I said stupid shit when I was younger, man. Did you not? Do you know what I mean? We all fucking did. Like, I'm over it. It was 2014. It doesn't represent who I am now, what I do now. And, there's a lot of dumb shit, loads of dumb shit that I thought was funny back then. Some of it I still find funny now, but I wouldn't say. Do you know what I mean? That's the truth of it. You learn, you grow.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, like we all change an immeasurable amount, like between the ages of, I think, sort of. I mean, there's like bursts, isn't there? So from the age of 14 to maybe 22, you're I think sort of broadly the same sort of kid. Yeah. And then from 22 up to 30, you get really, really obsessed in like your interests. I'm going to be the biggest comedian ever, or I'm going to be a fucking footballer. And then once you get past 30, you sort of calm down a bit. Hopefully you're a bit more mature. You find different things funny. Other things are more, I'm way more focused, as I'm sure you are, on, making sure my family's secure, making sure we're not rendered homeless than I am about becoming the next Chris Rock or some shit.
I think like, to me, before controversy was king, and my once I got sort of put in that brand and I got put into that bracket of one of the UK's most controversial social media comedians, I was like, well, this is me, that's my audience, that's who I've got to play to. And I was always torn between upsetting people and keeping my following engaged. Now I personally, I don't care either way. I couldn't I couldn't give a toss if you don't like what I do and you want to use it to virtual signal on your platform about whatever fucking thing you're trying to push. If you want to use my name for it, go for it. And on the flip side, like if I'm not being brutal enough, or if I'm spending too much time doing content about being a dad or about walking my dogs, and you choose to unfollow me, it's not going to change my life, man. Like I'm settling into being a grown up now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
that's it. It's like you be you, I'll be me. I'll do my own thing, kind of thing. Yeah, just to sort of come back on something you said a minute ago, also that I thought was quite interesting. So when you're talking about sort of receiving some flack, and the thing that you've got to be careful about is like brands, and if you're beholden to like a national broadcaster or a sponsor or something, I think that's a really important thing to sort of hammer home to people, that if they're interested in pursuing like a podcast or online content or something, it is so much better, in my humble opinion, and like who the fuck am I, right? But in my opinion, to just do it yourself, to just stay your own boss, so that then when the inevitable flack does come, when somebody does take offense to the thing that you said, you don't have to fucking answer to anyone. You can just say, yeah, well, you know, if you don't like it.
Yeah, I think it's really tricky, because it's hard for me on because I've got so many different things going on, that there's always someone that can affect. There's always someone. I'm always attached to something. I mean, even my film release. Do you know what I mean? I raised the money for the film myself. We took a play and we rewrote it into a screenplay. We produced it with Terry Stone. But even you can do it all in-house, all yourself, but no one can see it unless a platform will take it on, like Amazon or Netflix or something like that. And they'll only take it on, they go, right, who's in it? And then they go, right, who are these people? And then they'll be like, right, are you sure you want to take on Dapper last? Because of, you know, the press might pick up.
Yeah.
You know, this, and at the moment there's so many levels. I mean, look at what's going on with Balenciaga. Have you been watching all of that stuff?
No. What's that?
Well, there's a massive thing going on with Balenciaga, where they've got an ad campaign that has got teddy bears with bondage gear on it, and they've given the teddy bears with bondage gear to kids.
I read something about it last night. Yeah.
And the kids are holding these teddy bears with bondage gear. I've done a video on it today, and there's a lot of like hidden messages in the advertising about paedophilia and child pornography. And being someone in this industry, I know how many levels that stuff has got to get checked. It's unbelievable for anything. And I'm just talking about maybe like a small UK company that's using me to advertise their product on my platform. The levels that I have to go through for them to check my language, to check the content, to check the hashtags, to check the caption, to check everything. And this company, so there's a thought process behind all of it. So it is difficult staying true to your comedy form, but also wanting to get paid by these big companies.
I suppose at some point, if you want to make, like, it's not like there's a punk rock kind of romance to doing it all yourself, isn't there? That I unashamedly subscribe to with everything. I'm just like, I'll just do it myself. I'll just record it in my cabin. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually, I guess you're going to need some money or some finance or support.
Yeah,
from someone, right?
yeah, I think it depends though. You know, if you're generating money, I don't know how Patreon works. How does Patreon work? Have they got to subscribe then, do they? Yeah.
They go on Patreon and then they commit to, there's like 3 tiers. This is great. I get to plug this while I'm talking to you.
That's great.
There's 3 tiers. There's like a £3, a £5 and a £10, and they can choose like what access, what benefits they get as a result of it.
Wow.
So yeah, I guess if I was like, but then even that is independent, right? So I can say, I do it all independently, and people who jump on Patreon then support me. But if I said something fucking outrageous, people might take such offense that they contact Patreon and say, this guy said this on your platform. What are you going to do about it, right?
Yeah, there's always, I mean, look at what they've done to Andrew Tate. I mean, it's probably worked in his benefit now, but it's a difficult thing. You've got, you know, in a word, your original question was, how do you think comedy's been affected by cancel culture? Yeah, it's been heavily affected. I mean, I can remember going and watching, what's his name? Fucking hell. The one that goes, Alice, who the fuck is Alice? What's his name? Oh, God.
No
Chubby
idea.
Brown.
Oh,
Chubby
yeah.
And I can remember watching Chubby Brown, going and seeing him live. And I'm not ashamed to say it, I found a lot of his stuff hilarious. I mean, the racist stuff, I think, definitely shouldn't fly. But some of the other just ridiculous stuff, you know, about his mother-in-laws and stuff like that, I love it. But now they'll always be able to, if you've got a joke where you're saying, you know, something about your mother-in-law, you know, like those classic jokes, you know, it would be sexist now, you know. The whole
it's funny though, isn't it? Because it's kind of, I always wheel out the idea, the concept of mother-in-law jokes as something like, so way back in the day, like, so somebody would have got up at the end of a pier in a comedy show and they would have told a joke about their mother-in-law, and that then would have been shocking. Like the audience would have gone, oh my God, did you hear the shit that he said about his own mother-in-law? Like, what happens if she hears that? And there's a shock factor to it. People would have laughed. And over time that became a cliche. Like a harmless sort of, you know, double act kind of, oh, they told some mother-in-law jokes, it's a bit boring. And now it's got to the point where it's almost come like full circle, where the most shocking comedians, like a Roy Chubby Brown, somebody who's not going to get put onto, like, you know, the Royal Variety show, something like that, they might well be telling mother-in-law jokes. Yeah,
but I mean, listen, you've got what you've got to look at is, it depends how big you are, man. Like, it depends how big you are. Like, Ricky Gervais ain't getting cancelled. No, you ain't cancelling Ricky Gervais. Do you know what I mean? He's still gonna sell out tours. He's still gonna do. But if you're an up and coming working class comedian like I was at the time that I was coming up, and you make a few mistakes just before you proper fucking break through, then you're
okay.
fucked.
Here's a loaded question for you.
Go on.
To what extent do you think the flack that you received was rooted in classism?
100%.
Really?
I mean, it's a mixture. Some of it, I was an easy target because I was saying stupid stuff. When I say stupid stuff, I mean not just like stuff that's offensive. I mean low-hanging fruit comedy. Do you know what I mean? Like very low-hanging fruit. But that was my brand. That's where I was. You know, and at the time I was running around a single young lad partying and chasing girls and stuff like that. So a lot of my comedy came from personal experience and what my friends and everyone around me was doing. So that's what I could relate to. But it was considered lad culture, banter and stuff like that, which is considered low-hanging fruit. But it's only really low-hanging fruit if it's coming from a working class person with the same, with an accent. If somebody was Oxford educated and was talking about the same things, or portraying a lad culture character like Dapper laughs.
That's interesting. Yeah.
If they were going, if they were going, excuse me, sweetheart, can I smell your fanny? No, you can't. Must be your feet then. And that was a joke. And then they go, and then they come off and they go, oh yes, by the way, that was a joke that was stereotyping how men go up and talk to, you know, if after the sketch in real life, if they didn't have the same accent or that, you know, I think it would have been, you know, oh, right, he's clearly intelligent enough to be being ironic. But I wasn't intelligent enough to be ironic with Dapper laughs because I'm working class.
Yeah, that's really, so there's a couple of interesting things in there I just want to pick up on. So the first one is just a pure classist element. So if you were a Jimmy Carr, who I think went to Cambridge, or a David Mitchell, although I can't imagine David Mitchell doing that kind of material, but if you were someone with that kind of cut glass accent, and you did a joke along those lines, I think you're right. I think the audience would be more forgiving. In fact, I don't think the audience even would just be more forgiving. I think producers would be more forgiving and be like, I like that guy. Let's hire him. But the second thing to just pick up on is, yes, you're right. So if you look at somebody like Lee Nelson, right, is a character that is done by Simon Brodkin, I think. Yeah. I hope I'm pronouncing his surname right. Yeah. So now he is a highly educated guy who used to be a doctor, who then went out into the comedy circuit and portrayed a working class guy called Lee Nelson.
And got away with murder. Yeah. But because he's seen, he fits exactly into that bracket that you're talking about, where it's, you know, an educated person who portrays a working class person who says some, you know, off color stuff. And you're right. He's absolutely forgiven. Yeah, and you've got the same with Sacha Baron Cohen. Look at Ali G. Yeah. Ali G was peak time, Channel 4. the fucking set that he walked out of was a woman's legs bent over. Do you know what I mean? And it was all about shagging pussy. It was worse, so much worse.
Here's another question for you. What do you think would have happened to you if you had filmed a skit where you were going down on the Queen with a shaven muff like Ali G did?
Jesus Christ! Imagine. I reckon someone would have hunted me down and killed me. I mean, it's insane. But I mean, like, at the beginning, when I mean, this is true as well. I went into the offices at ITV2 and I spoke to the producers when the flag was kicking off and the Guardian was doing. The Guardian done a piece saying that my show was an almanac for rape culture. And there was all the comedians were kicking off and they were like, yeah, it's good, any press is good press, but they soon changed their opinion when the signatures started coming in on people signing to get me banned. But to me, at the beginning, I was like, well, this is fantastic. Like, they're really buying this character. They're really buying it. And then, and it's their fault if they're not intelligent to understand that I'm pushing the boundaries with the stereotype lag humor. But then it just turned out that they thought that I was a threat, and they thought that I wasn't intelligent. They thought that I was just walking around with my phone filming people. Yeah. They didn't think it was sketches.
I always thought there's a really interesting conversation to have around this, and I've discussed it with my girlfriend at length. And we're both broadly of the same take, if you like. So I guess the problem was that and again, not intentionally buttering your ass here, but for a guy who is a traditionally good-looking chap, such as yourself, who has filmed himself like going up to women in the street, saying funny stuff, they respond well to it, or they laugh or giggle. Then there's going to be a whole subset of men out there who are, let's say, not quite so easy on the eye, who then interpret that as, oh fuck, so women like that, I should go and do that. So then they go up there, start hassling women in the street, and you can kind of bring that back to you. So there's this sort of responsibility maybe on you as a younger man to go, oh, hang on a second, like, if they're trying to do what I do, that's not cool. So
yeah, that's where my problem lies. That's where but at the time I was far too up my own arse with my own fame, and I was far too naive. And also, I was going out chatting up birds at the time. I didn't see it as risky behaviour. I had no knowledge. I was 15 years old. I'd moved out. I'd grown up with my friends. Do you know what I mean? I had no idea that sexual harassment was so rife. I had no idea that sexual violence was such a big thing. And I learned publicly about it. I even went on shows and done interviews with feminists and stuff like that, and learned. And and much to my discredit, though, much to my going on and saying, "Well, teach me. I want to know more." And then the headlines being, "Dapper ass thinks we should teach him not to rape."
I saw that. Yeah.
It was horrific. I was like, what I was trying to say is, I never wanted to. I've always been in the view. I don't know everything. I'm willing to learn. And God, fuck me, through my 20s, going through that up to my early 30s, I learned so much about feminism, rape culture, misogyny. I had to. It was drilled into me. But in enough time to have 2 daughters. Do you know what I mean? But at the time, I was so toxic, and some of my stuff that was going out was, like you say, probably influencing people in the wrong way. No one wanted to hear it, really. And because it was so close to getting cancelled, people thought I was... just trying to, it's PR. Yeah,
I think that's it. I think once you go over that bell curve of where you are effectively a mascot for seeing, like, for when people are having that conversation, and it was like, that was when those stories and those experiences that women were going through it was first kind of bubbling up, or at least that's in terms of popular culture, and people saying, this is what men do to us, this is how they treat us, this is not on, like, what can we do to fix this? And it was just at that same time, like right in that zeitgeist, that I think you became the mascot.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, Dapper Laughs definitely was in an old way of thinking, the character and those sexual jokes, those sexually charged jokes and stuff like that, I would never do now. And not out of fear of being cancelled, just out of cringing. Do you know what I mean? out of just cringing. But saying that again, Dapper Last was you were meant to cringe at him. Do you know what I mean? He was never meant to turn into a poster boy for lads. But I think through the fashion of social media blowing up, he became popular for the wrong reasons. Do you know what I mean? Whereas my comedy mind wanted it to be ironic, but he just turned into a lad's lad. Do you know what I mean? Through social media, it became maybe very much what was wrong with society. Looking back on it back then.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about your sort of more current work, because I'm keen that we get the message out there for it. And this is a good juncture to come from, I guess, because so much of your historic content was around that kind of laddish comedy space, and now you're actually like kind of pivoting, right? You're going into kind of mental health for men, getting us to talk more about our emotions, be a bit more open about things. And that's quite a departure, isn't it? Like, you've come a long way in that time.
Yeah.
Could you talk us through a bit about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, well, I think everything that I do on my social media, I mean, I'm doing my stories constantly. So my stories is like a documentary of my life constantly, and everything from my characters that I create to my stories that I do, to my sketches that I make, to my everything to do with comedy is a reflection of what's going on in my life. And I've been battling addiction for many, many years. I didn't know that I was an alcoholic. Well, I didn't think I was an alcoholic because I'd just get smashed on the weekends, every weekend. Do you know what I mean? Right. Maybe once or twice in the week, and then I get smashed every weekend. And then drugs come into play with my life. It's definitely part of the culture, especially lad culture. Cocaine, a bag of gear, packet, and all that. And it then was like, you know, I'd be drinking 2 or 3 times a week, but I'd be drinking and having a session, getting on the packet every weekend. Right. And that went on fucking my whole life. It's been going on. And through that, losing my career, being publicly shamed, my father passing away, becoming a dad and everything, there was a lot of depression that sunk into my life, a lot of anxiety that I now realise was fueled by alcoholism, addiction, drug abuse. And I've tried to come out of it last year, done 6 months sober, fell back into it. I'm 49 days today, 50 days tomorrow, clean and sober, after a massive fallout in my life, you know, a big relapse. And I realise now that what I've been going through has a massive part to play in feeling suicidal before, being depressed, being anxious, being down. You know, I don't feel like I've got mental health issues now that I'm sober, and alcoholism was a massive part of them being bad. And I think that if this is what I'm living and I'm experiencing it, millions of other people out there must be as well.
Yeah.
And that was my thinking on it. You know, this platform can't all be about me. You know, and I think that there comes a certain amount of, you know, I like being proud of myself, basically, for opening up about these things on my social media. And I feel proud when people come back and go, fuck me, mate, that's what I'm doing, that's what's happening to me. And that has just snowballed into a massive platform, that Men and Their Emotions, 25,000 men on there that every day are submitting what they're going through. I'm okaying it, and then people are talking. And I personally, for me, it's like therapy for me. Talking about what I'm going for on my social media platform, getting the response back, and people saying, fuck me, I'm not alone, and doing some cheesy fucking videos about how I'm feeling and what I'm going through. They take the piss out of me, but also there's a certain amount of people on there that are going, thank you, I needed to hear that. So it just works both ways for me.
Yeah, it's kind of depressing that it is so refreshing, isn't it, to hear men talking about what they're going through. But I guess that's sort of the point, isn't it? Yeah. It's like, we do need to be more open about stuff. You don't need to be quite so ashamed about what you're going through, or that it's hurting, or do you ever, because you're like a comedian by trade, right? Is it hard for you to not like weave in piss-takey humor in there somewhere?
Yeah, I do. I think, you know, one of my biggest characters that I've got, we just sold loads of merchandise on it. I've got little figures of it, and fucking look, I've got this artist come and made this for me. on him. His name's the Sesh Gremlin. I don't know if you've seen him.
The
It's the Sesh Gremlin, and he's like, it's a face, and it's one of these Snapchat filters, and it's got a cone on his head. And I used to do videos every Friday where I'd be talking, like, you know, the missus would be like, you know, don't forget it's Friday, and then the character would appear and be like, it's Friday, let's get on the fucking packet, and go crazy.
Yeah.
And my missus, and then it would cut to my missus standing in front of me, and I'm going, no, like in front of her, and then I'll say something stupid, like she'll have some flour and she'll be baking a cake, and he'll be like, that's not flour, put it on her tits and snip it off, and I'll do it, and then she'll slap me. So for me, there is always elements of what I'm going through, drinks, whatever, comedy and session, my mental health, depression. It's all part of it, all mixes in together, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you got to find the funny in it. Like, even though there will be times, I'm sure, where you'll get like more flack from people, and they'll say, look, this is a serious issue. This is depression. This is anxiety or whatever. You shouldn't be joking about this. But like, my personal feel is that you have to find the funny in shit, because that's what makes it digestible to people. Then they're like, I didn't feel like a talk about that, or I didn't think we could joke about that, but you made it accessible. Yeah,
definitely.
Where do you think this might head then for you? Have you got any sort of overall goal for it?
Well, the reason why I was asking you about Patreon is because I've started filming a podcast myself. It's called Menace to Sobriety. Just simply really to keep me on the right track, because of my ADHD, unless I fucking consume myself in projects, I can easily be distracted and come off. So, you know, that's why like a lot of my business partners, you know, I've got a nightclub. I've got, you know, I had a beer brand. I was selling beer. I've got a nightclub. I fucking, you know, I was meant to be doing shows for the football down at the O2, and you know, a lot of these people are like, "Why are you screaming and shouting about being sober? No one's going to want to come and have a beer with you if you're doing this." And I'm like, "Look, I've got to live it. Otherwise, I can't do it." Do you know what I mean? So I've got my sobriety podcast where I'm simply going to be interviewing people, everyday people and celebrities that are on a sobriety journey, and giving hints and tips and you know, for people to see what they're going through, and really to align mental health issues with their substance abuse, because it's a massive thing. And yeah, just keep growing that group and keeping people talking. And then I've got a film production company, and we're starting to make films, man, and that's really blowing up for me. So I've got 3 projects next year that I'm sort of putting on a slate. One's a documentary, one's a film, and the other is like a TV series, all mental health based. So I'm going to try and raise finance for 3 of them. What I want to do with next year, I mean, obviously I've got to make money, but what I want to do next year is dedicate a year to mental health out of everything that I've done, because everything I've done really has been all about me. You know, rebuilding my career, my shows, my tours, my businesses, getting money and everything like that. Next year, I want to just work out what I need to earn to survive. And then I want to just, even if it's just for a year, just put everything into mental health and addiction, and see what that does for me. Because
I think it will make you feel like $1 million, to be honest. I mean,
that's what I think.
Like I did CBT a few years ago, and I studied psychoanalysis and psychotherapy in my late 20s, just in like an evening class thing. And I read a couple of books on it also, where they say like a great sort of natural treatment for depression is like service, which sounds fucking ridiculous, but like if you go out of your way to help people, if you support people, or just ask them if they need a hand, or just like help a lady across the road, like it sounds like cliches, right? But if you just, even like, obviously the example that they put in this book was like, just buy yourself 3 plants, and these plants will need you to keep them alive. So if you can just keep the plants alive for like 2-3 weeks, it's like you feel that uptick.
I think I get that from the Men and Their Emotions group. You know, seeing people, facilitating people, helping people is nice, but in a selfish way as well. I think it's good karma, you know. And I need help for things to go. I need help for things to go well for me. You know, I don't not in regards to like financially or career wise. I mean, like with my sobriety, you know, because there's a little switch. There's a fine line. And it is all down to how much I value my family and how much I value my missus and how much I value my sanity, but it's also like how much work or how much I care about it. Do you know what I mean? And it can very easily get muddled, and I'll be like, do you know what? I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm having a drink.
Yeah.
It can very easily get there. But the love that I get from people that I'm helping, you're right. It's like it makes me think, no, with this sobriety comes that love. So I'm gonna keep doing it.
Sure. Daniel O'Reilly, we are out of time, but thank you so much for joining me to discuss about your career and also about your mental health initiative. If you're not following Daniel, then seek him out. He's on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, Dapper Laughs. And have you got a live show or anything coming up?
Nothing at the moment. I'm but just keep an eye out. Yeah, keep an eye out.
Cool, man. Cool. Okay. Once again, big shout out to the Patreons. Thanks for continuing your support of the podcast. If you're looking for tickets for the live show that we're doing in February, do keep it locked to funk-27.co.uk. I'm going to pop the ticket link on there after it's gone out to the Patreons on the private message group. That's it from me. I'll be back next Wednesday for a solo show. Thanks very much. We outie.